Hey babes, welcome to this week's episode of the bjjbabespodcast. There's no interview this week. Instead, I just have a few topics that I want to touch on. The first being the holidays. Namely, that I will be taking a hiatus from posting new episodes over December. I'm still scheduling and recording interviews, but those interviews will start to be posted in January 2025. I'm traveling for Christmas and New Year's and seeing family and friends, so I want to make sure that I am fully present for those times. It also makes my interview schedule more flexible. So please, if you'd like to share your story, send me a message on Instagram or TikTok or send me an email. I'm happy to get you scheduled, get you interviewed during that time or after. And this week, first I want to talk about a current event in the jiu-jitsu world and then talk about some more fun jiu-jitsu topics, specifically WNO this week and no-gi worlds coming up. So basically, you're getting an episode of my unsolicited and highly unqualified opinions. Feedback encouraged. To start off, there was some not great news in the jiu-jitsu world this past week. Instructor Alcinor Alves, corrections on pronunciation, welcome, was arrested last Saturday in Brazil on allegations of sexual abuse of young boys. There are 12 alleged victims as of the last I checked. The time span is over 2011 to 2018. These are currently charges, meaning they're allegations. There's no finding of guilt at this point. A number of Alves's former students went public and revealed themselves as victims of his abuse. Specifically, two-time Jiu-Jitsu world champion Mateus Gabriel gave a television interview in which he detailed his abuse, which began when he was 11. And then 3 additional fighters released a joint statement on Instagram, which reads as follows. For years, we carried the pain of a traumatic experience. We were victims of abuse committed by a teacher we trusted. Like many victims, we felt ashamed and afraid to report the crime. Today, we are breaking our silence to seek justice and prevent others from suffering the same. Sports should be a safe space for learning and respect. That's just horrifying what happened to these children. And, first of all, it's incredibly commendable that these men came forward to say what happened to them, to identify themselves publicly. That took so much courage. It's exactly as they said, many victims feel ashamed, even though this is something that happened to them, not something that they caused. It's hard to come forward, it's hard to speak publicly about, and their courage in doing so is so commendable. It's also just scary how predators can hide in plain sight like this, taking advantage of the access and trust they are given. And what is truly insidious is how well many of them hide it. Abusers can be very charismatic, which makes it harder for victims to come forward. When all you see is how much other people appear to like the person who's hurting you, there's a fear that you won't be believed, because those people might say, well, I know this person, that's not my experience with them. Guess what? Your experience is your experience, but that doesn't mean someone else hasn't had a negative experience. I've seen it happen in my own life. A social group I've been in for a long time that is not in jiu-jitsu. There was an individual in that group who had a history of abusing the women he was in a relationship with. And he even, it came out, had drugged and raped at least one woman. And finally, it all came to light, and he was essentially shunned by the group when one of his girlfriends was brave enough after a blow-up he had to call the police. And everyone rallied around her, and then the other former girlfriends came forward and said, yes, he abused me too. And I just think of how scared they were to say something, especially when it was happening, because this is someone who was very well liked in a social group. So take something like that and then add the fact that it's a martial art and somebody's in a position of power and has a leadership role, and think of how hard it is to speak up under those circumstances. So it's not something that's unique to the jiu-jitsu community, but in this context, in this community, we have to be mindful of fostering an environment where victims are heard and believed, so that predators are not protected. IBJJF and the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Confederation have already announced a permanent ban on Alves. It's encouraging to see such immediate action, but Kyra Gracie went on social media. She pointed out these organizations have not always taken action against individuals who have been reported to have assaulted and abused women, allowing them to continue competing and teaching classes. Kyra raises such an important point, which is that victims need to be heard and protected no matter who they are. The power dynamics in martial arts can make that difficult. It's great that we foster a community of respect and discipline. However, that respect and that expectation of respect can be abused when people are discouraged from speaking up against abusive behavior because it is being perpetrated by someone above them, either in a position of power or protected by someone in power. And unfortunately, that power dynamic and that respect can be abused and subverted by people who never had good intentions. They never intended on respecting the power they had. They always intended on taking advantage of that. We all have to remember that just because someone has a black belt doesn't mean they're a good person or that everything they say should be accepted and followed at face value. And if you find yourself in a situation that feels off, it's okay to listen to your gut, listen to your instincts. It's okay to leave a situation. It's okay to change gyms and find a safer environment if you feel that the training environment you are in is not safe. I'm really good at being a buzzkill, aren't I? Let's move on to some happier topics, whose number one, WNO, is back this week on Flow Grappling on Wednesday night to be exact. The main event is Kenan Duarte versus Roberto Jimenez, but this is a women's podcast, and also I really like following female grapplers because they inspire my own grappling journey. And the fight I'm most excited about is the women's strawweight championship fight between Adele Fornerino and Alex Nguyen. I've been high on Adele since she stepped in for Fionn Davies last year at WNO. She stepped in last minute when Fionn had an injury, and Adele caught Amanda Alequin in an Aoki lock like seconds into the fight. Since then, she captured gold in her weight division and the absolute at ADC, despite being the smallest woman there. Adele is a super badass. I got incredibly lucky over the weekend. I take a women's class on Saturday mornings, and our teacher, who also is badass and awesome in her own right, is friends with Adele and got her to come teach us. It's a great class. Adele is nice and really funny, and also an incredible teacher. It was like a physics class in a jiu-jitsu class. She's so technical, which makes sense given her size. I can see how she negates size advantages so well just by hitting an angle the right way. So yeah, go Adele. I'm looking forward to watching her on Wednesday. I think she will put in another exciting performance. Then December 12th to 14th is IBJJF No-Gi Worlds. The brackets aren't out yet, but I did go through and look at who's signed up as of today. And I want to talk about some of the competitors I'll be watching, including some past podcast guests. First, I want to talk about the wrestlers. So in the lower belt divisions, we have Pat Downey, who high-level wrestler. He's fought Gordon Ryan and Nicky Rod. He competed at the Craig Jones Invitational over the summer. He beat Luke Rockhold and then lost to Adam Bradley. He's competing in the blue belt division and the adult male super heavy division. Then we have Helen Maroulis, who is an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, competing in the adult female lightweight division at blue belt. And finally, Michael Pixley, who's a former NCAA champion wrestler, who, if you don't remember, over the summer took down and submitted Nicholas Marigali in the first round of ADCC. He's competing at purple belt in the male super heavy division. I have to say, if I faced any of them, and what I do anytime I go against a wrestler is I pull guard so fast. And I'm not a guard puller. My guard pull is very pathetic, and my guard game is not my best. Something I'm working on, but I would be pulling guard very fast. And them competing at blue and purple belts emphasizes just how much belt color is supposed to reflect individual progress and knowledge in jiu-jitsu. These people all have experience and physical abilities in wrestling that may be more advanced than others at their belt level, but it's wrestling, not jiu-jitsu, although it is applicable in jiu-jitsu. So it's a weird situation because, like, if you were a black belt in karate and you were competing in jiu-jitsu, you wouldn't necessarily use any of your karate, and so no one would be saying, oh, you need to compete at black belt in jiu-jitsu because you have a black belt in karate. But it's almost same but different, because you can use some wrestling moves in a jiu-jitsu competition. I'm not a wrestler. I think wrestling's fun. I'm trying to learn more. But at the end of the day, what puts them at their belt level is the time and knowledge they've put into jiu-jitsu and where their instructor thinks they belong based on what they know about jiu-jitsu. So yeah, it's probably frustrating to compete against collegiate wrestlers, gold medalist wrestlers in your jiu-jitsu competition. But I mean, at the end of the day, their jiu-jitsu is probably blue belt level or purple belt level. And then in terms of past podcast guests, we have Erin Quillen, who was just on a couple of weeks ago. She's competing at Master 2 female super heavyweight in brown belt. Erin's coming off a double podium finish at Pans, and also, as we heard from her, overcoming a serious injury and learning how to rewire her brain's perception of pain. I'm so excited to see Erin's comeback, just knowing how much she has persevered and overcome to get to where she is very inspiring. We love the Masters women. I'm also a Masters 2 female. I think there is something really inspiring about seeing higher belt women competing at your age or even older and being like, this is something I can still be doing in 10 years. I mean, Erin's my age. She's Masters 2. Still seeing women competing at high levels in the Masters division is inspiring and encouraging. Then we have Sofia Nordeno, our Swedish friend, competing at Master 1 female black belt in the middleweight division. Sofia recently won a super fight at Arte Suave. Sofia is crazy badass. I'm like her warm-up role, which I'm so thankful for just that opportunity. I just rolled with her at open mat today. And she caught and released me in a triangle like 3 times in a row. Each time as it happened, I realized what was happening, but she caught me so good. She's a fun fighter to watch. Even at open mat, I'll just sit and watch her because she has this beautiful guard that's just, she flows and she moves around, and it's like almost like ballet, but lying on the ground and deadly. Lastly, we have Darla Sedlacek of More Women on the Mat. She was a past guest. She's competing at Masters 4 black belt. She signed up in the middleweight division, which right now there's no one signed up in her division. But I'd venture a guess, at the very least, she'll get out there in the absolute and throw down. So hopefully I'll get to watch Darla's fights. Some other things I'm excited about for No-Gi Worlds. We've got Elizabeth Clay, who's a new mom, competing at adult black belt middleweight after getting double gold at Pans fairly soon after having her baby and having her newborn there with her. We love that. She trained through her pregnancy. I followed her on Instagram. It was really cool to see, and cool to see her talk about the adaptations she made so that she could still train safely. We also have Gabby Pisania jumping into no-gi competition. Gabby has been so dominant in the gi, both in her weight division and in the absolute. It'll be cool to see her go at it without the pajamas. I mean, she's got a good ankle lock game, so I feel like that'll do well for her in no-gi. And Kendall Roosing is in her division, so hopefully we'll get to see them go at it. Then the adult female lightweight division, we have 2 grapplers that I love to follow, Amanda Bruce and Brianna St. Marie. Amanda took silver to Fionn last year. She won Pans this year in this division. She trains at Atos with a crazy talented bench of training partners. That's kind of the interesting thing about being in San Diego is you just have these Atos and AOJ people running around just being incredible. Brie is fresh off a win at the IBJJF Crown, defeating Amanda's teammate Gabby McComb, as well as Jane Fragoso and Janina Lebre. There are a lot of other grapplers I'm excited to see, so that's really just a sampling. Message me with anyone else you think I should check out. So this is it. Until January 2025. As I said before, I'm still scheduling and recording interviews over the next month, so if you'd like to come on the show or have a recommendation of someone you think would make a great guest, hit me up. My email is bjjbabespodcast@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube under that handle. Happy holidays. I'll see y'all in 2025. Bye.